Welcome to Quick MCAT Lessons, where I try to explain MCAT topics in 10 minutes or less. Today, we'll talk about somatosensation. We'll talk about the receptors that are involved in detecting touch, pressure, temperature, pain, and proprioception. We'll also talk about dermatomes and how signals are transmitted and processed in the brain, and we'll finish off with the gate control theory of pain. So somatosensation is a collective term for sensory information from the skin, muscles, and joints. This includes sensations of touch, temperature, pain, and proprioception. Touch would include pressure and vibration. Temperature is called thermoception, pain is called kinesthesia, and proprioception includes the sense of body position and movement. How quickly our neurons fire tells us the intensity of the stimulus. So if our neurons are firing super fast, then it's high intensity, but if they're firing nice and slow, then it's a low intensity. So for example, if your hand's burning, you'll get very fast intensity so we don't burn ourselves. But if you sit in the heated seats of your car, then your neurons will fire much slower, telling you that it's a low intensity. There are 3 types of neurons: fast adapting, slow adapting, and non-adapting. So fast adapting sensory neurons react to changes in stimuli. A good example is sensory neurons in your skin. Think of putting on clothes and feeling the clothes on your skin. The initial stimuli initiate a response, but after the stimuli stop changing in intensity and remain constant in intensity, the neuron quickly stops firing, resulting in you adapting to the new pressure of your clothes and no longer feeling their pressure on your skin. When you take off your shirt, the sensory neurons will fire in response to the change of stimuli to a lesser intensity, and you will feel the difference before they once again rapidly adapt to the new normal and stop firing once a constant pressure has reached. Slow adapting neurons continue firing action potentials during the presence of a stimulus. However, the frequency of firing decreases over time, so it's high at first, but it's slow after, and it still fires. Example of this could be Merkel cells in the skin or Ruffini endings. Finally, non-adapting neurons are a truly constant firing rate during the stimulus. There's no reduction in firing frequency at all. Some sources lump these with slow adapting neurons and say they're extremely slow adapting, but they're very rare in the body and they're actually often theoretical. So moving on to types of receptors. So you have mechanoreceptors that detect touch and pressure. Of mechanoreceptors, you have Meissner corpuscles, which are used for light touch, Pacinian corpuscles, which are used for deep pressure and vibration, Merkel discs, which are used for sustained pressure, and Ruffini endings, which are used for stretch. Now, you don't need to know exactly which cell does or which receptor does what, but it's a good idea to know that corpuscles and these endings and discs, that they are associated with mechanoreception, and that should be good enough for knowing the types of mechanoreceptors. Thermoreceptors detect temperature changes, nociceptors detect pain from harmful stimuli, and proprioceptors are found in muscles, joints, and tendons, and they provide information about body part position. With that, let's move on to sensory pathways. So receptors send signals through peripheral nerves to the spinal cord. Signals travel via afferent neurons to the brain, and most somatosensory signals are processed in the somatosensory cortex. This is in the postcentral gyrus of the parietal lobe, which is on the border of the parietal and frontal lobe. Now let's move on to proprioception and kinesthesia. So proprioception is the subconscious awareness of your body's position in space. This is what allows us to walk in a pitch black room without losing our balance or falling over. Proprioceptors in muscle spindles and tendons send continuous feedback to the brain, and this allows us to tell how contracted or relaxed every muscle in our body is. Kinesthesia is the awareness of body movement. This is more behavioral. You teach yourself how to move to successfully complete the task at hand. Example being, if I kick the ball and move my foot like this, it will curve like this. Or if I move like this, I will hit the baseball. Or I need to move my hand like this for a free throw. So overall, proprioception is cognitive and kinesthesia is behavioral. Let's go to pain and temperature. Pain is nociception, temperature is thermoception, and both nociception and thermoception are slow. In order to sense temperature, we use the TRPV1 receptor. This receptor is also sensitive to pain. pain and temperature causes conformational changes in the protein, which sends a signal to the brain. Now, to send signals, we have 3 types of nerve fibers: fast, medium, and slow. We have A beta fibers, A delta fibers, and C fibers. So A beta fibers are fast ones. They are thick and covered in myelin, so they have less resistance and high conductance. A delta fibers are slower, they're smaller diameter, and they have less myelin. And C fibers are the slowest. They have the smallest diameter, and they're unmyelinated, which can cause a lingering sense of pain. If you can't remember them from fastest to slowest, it goes fastest to slowest alphabetically. So AB, alpha beta is the first one, AD, alpha delta is the second one, and then C, which is the slowest. But overall, the thicker a fiber is and the more covered in myelin it is, the faster it will conduct. Let's finish off with the gate control theory of pain. This says the spinal cord acts as a gate that can either allow or block pain signals from reaching the brain. This gate is influenced by the intensity and frequency of pain and non-painful input. So if painful signals are stronger, then they overtake and you get pain. For example, you stub your toe, you get a lot of pain. But if the non-painful signals are stronger, then this can block some of the pain signals, leading to reduced pain. So if you stub your toe, but then you rub it a lot, it will feel better. You still might feel pain, but it will be less pain than if you just stub your toe and don't rub it. So overall, that wraps up somatosensation. In the next episode, we'll dive into taste and smell.